Hello, my name is Tao from class 1810 CCP, and I made this video today to answer the questions how will I exploit my art education to further my professional career. I suppose answering these questions at this time is really appropriate because I've almost finished my 3 years of studying contemporary creative practice here in BUV, and you know now is a good time to evaluate what I've learned during the 3 years here and how I have changed ever since I got started here. So I will I will talk about two perspectives: the personal perspective, how I grow as a creative, and professional perspective, how these experience in BUV helps me with my career later on. So first thing first is personal perspective. For me, one of the things that I really enjoy in BUV is how I was given a lot of lots of kinds of design briefs, like a really wide range of briefs, and it helps me explore my creative strengths and preferences, as well as to improve and develop my design, both design hard and soft skills. So during the last 3 years, I've been given a lot of, briefs, from uh, problem-solving briefs to typography briefs and copywriting briefs, etc., etc. So it helps me to figure it out which, you know, which graphic area am I good at, and which graphic area that I am prone to choose to use and solve a design problem. Because at the beginning of my study here, I'm still quite unsure which design area to choose, whether graphic design or illustrations, because back then I was interested in both and don't really know which one I'm better off. But after 3 years of studying, I'm now really sure that my specifying major is graphic design, not illustrations, thanks to those briefs and assignments that I've received. The second thing that I learned about, and I think really helpful for me in my creative journey, is how I was taught that you know how I was taught about the importance of process. We are mainly accessed based on our process of working and studying, process of research, and experimenting, decision making, etc. So it occurred to me how important the process is, especially when I start my teaching course. Last year, I did a short-term course about design thinking, and the design process is literally the core of design thinking, and we have to apply design thinking. How well we could apply design thinking into our process is really important, if that makes sense. But yeah, and when I evaluate back how I developed throughout the years, I recognize that the design thinking process is getting more and more clear. Like, back then, sometimes I followed this process without really, being aware of it. And the more I study and the more I learn about design theory and design thinking and everything, and the more I evaluate back on my process of working, the more I appreciate design thinking practices and the importance of design process. The third thing is, this is quite a personal thing for me because not everyone got this, but I am a really detail-oriented person, and I really like planning and organizing my life, my work, my study, and everything. So it applies to my study here in BUV. I plan a lot. I have a lot of planning and organizing and everything, and it is, of course, advantages because as CCP student, we have to deal with a lot of planning, especially a lot of organizing, because we have a lot of work and we need to organize our work in a way that could showcase our process, as mentioned before, because we're mainly assessed based on our process. And I'm really good at that. But it is also quite disadvantageous for me too. Surprisingly, I found out that sometimes I'm too focused on planning and over planning that I forgot what is actually important and the purpose of planning, which is actually get things done. So it's actually quite a lesson I learned the hard way, but I figured out that my process of learning in CCP helps me realize that it helps me to perfect my planning process and also keep my mind clear about planning is just the first stage and I still have a lot of other things to do. Last but not least, I haven't really mastered this yet, and I just start to learn about this because I'm now a senior and I haven't really had a lot of experience with professionalism, but that's what I've been trying to learn. Planning and organizing my study is part of professionalism because it shows how detail-oriented I could be, but the professionalism, as I figure, is much more than that. It's in how we promote ourselves, how we put ourselves on the market of graphic design, how we do networking and everything. I haven't really learned how to perfect and master professionalism yet, but I can say that I'm still learning, especially this term. So yeah, that's for personal perspective. I speak quite a lot, I figure, but yeah, that's always a problem with me. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about professional perspective. In terms of professional perspective, my time here at BUV has provided me with some really, really nice, very, very interesting and useful opportunities of internships and freelancing projects. I have had 3 internship opportunities, 2 in Hanoi and 1 in Indonesia. In fact, this is a t-shirt of the studio that I went for internship in Indonesia. It's called Maximum, this event organizer event company. And I also received some freelancing opportunities from the people that I know in the school, like from my teachers and my friends, etc. And it helps me a lot with getting used to and getting getting started in the business and applying what I've learned into practice, into real life. And I learned a lot about how to deal with client. Maybe not that a lot yet, I'm still quite inexperienced, but I learned how to deal with client, how to communicate, how to plan the project, how to budgeting. That's the huge questions for me. I still really struggling to figure that out. But those opportunities really, really helped me had this kind of industrial experience apart from the thing that I've learned at school. Even though I still hadn't had a lot, that's, I think, quite a good start for a university student. And the second thing in terms of professional perspective that I could get from the school is, how I can get like a whole network of designers and lecturers from CCP, and how those network of mine could help me a lot in my future, as it's already helped me with some internship and freelancing opportunities. And especially later on in life, I really want to become a design lecturer, as I mentioned a lot before. I think you already know this, but I suppose that my network of designers and lecturers in BUV, an educational institutions itself, could really help me in my journey of becoming a design lecturer in the future. So yeah, that is my answer. It took me like 10 minutes to finish this answer. I suppose I talk a lot, but I hope that I give you quite a detailed answer to how I would exploit my art education BUV for my professional career later on. Thank you for listening.